So, good morning, friends, and welcome to another amazing episode of Get In, Get Fit series. The entire excitement is because we just completed our 50th Golden Jubilee celebrations. Same time last week, we were having a blast of a time. What we thought was a 1 hour or a 1.5 hour celebration went on to be a 2.5 hour celebration. And I'm looking forward to sharing the YouTube link with all of you post this session. And I'm super excited, and I would only like to thank the Almighty God. All the best wishes from elders, all the expert speakers so far, and all our Get In Get Fit members who have been the backbone of this entire session. So thank you is just a very, very small word, but I cannot start another session without, putting all of you on record. So with that, I would like to start today's session. So we are at our Get In, Get Fit series, and this is a very special series because it's the first time we are having a gynecologist on the board, and I am super excited because in the morning today, Sujata and I, we were just chatting, and Sujata sent me such beautiful audios. And this was of her daughter, Adhya. And I know she's a tiny little princess, an angel, I should say. And it was so amazing to see how she was trying to groom her mom. Usually, parents groom children, right? And here it was role reversal. And what an amazing way. I could just see the kind of, the camaraderie with the mother and the child had, and how the child was so involved in today's speech, even without being in front of the camera. I guess what else can we ask for, right? That is heaven on earth when you have a lot of support from the entire family. And there Adhya went and she spoke about Arav, who's Sujata's first child, and then about herself, and then about her grandma,
I'm
how
able
they
to
love
hear
gardening,
everything.
and everything related to that. So really feeling super excited to introduce Sujata. And for all those people who are getting into the Get In, Get Fit series for the first time, I just wanted to let you know what we are all about. So Get In, Get Fit is a community, a health community, and we like to have a holistic way of life. So we get up every day in the morning, like most of us, and then we have a 40-minute Zoom session where we have our mentors every single day who come and try to showcase their way of exercising, and they help us follow the same. And so I have roped in a lot of my friends and people who have become our mentors right now. So we have everything from breathing to yoga to pranayams to meditation to internal healing to laughter therapy, what we had today, to dance, and of course facial yoga. And so that became the curriculum in the morning, 6:20 to 7 o'clock a.m. And every morning we look forward for that. And of course, we have our expert speakers who are, adding a lot more cream to this cake. And generally, we say, you can't have both, but we are having the best of both worlds. So we get to listen to the expert speakers, what they have done in their personal lives, and how they have made a world of difference, not only for themselves, but for the entire family. And I always feel like, health is not only wealth, it is also the very essence of how you can lead a well quality driven life. So, with those few words, I'm going to introduce our speaker for the day. Her name is Dr. Sujata Rajnikant. She's the center head at Penn Nalam. She's an aspiring Ironman triathlete. After her PG in gynecology and obstetrician, being working in the women's cancer cell since 2017. Now she's into preventive oncology and tobacco cessation specialist. She's passionate about health and fitness and swimming, cycling, running with yoga and strength training thrown in between. And she has one full marathon to her credit and numerous half marathons. She has done 3 triathlons, a sprint and an Olympic, and she's preparing for the half Ironman or women, however you want to call it. But when I started talking to Sujata, there was an amazing anecdote which I thought I should share even before I call her on screen. So Sujata, she said that, Vidya, whatever you're doing, we are a group of girls and we wanted to do just the same. And I'm amazed, like you finished 50 series and 50 weeks and you're ahead of us. I said, join in, Sujata. This is all of us doing it for the, benefit of the entire nation, if you see, the entire world, so that we can do our bit to spread happiness, spread joy, spread good health. And all this does not need money. I mean, we can do it just like that. So thank you, Sujata, for being such a sport, and welcome to our amazing series called Get In, Get Fit. Over to you, Sujata. Hear you. Thank you.
So like Tadia told me, I'm just going to thank you first for the opportunity. So I work for Pennalam, which is a women's cancer screening center. And even while doing my MBBS, preventive health had always been a passion and a pet subject of mine. And even while doing my post-graduation in obstetrics and gynecology, I didn't want to simply get into the grind of doing deliveries and the routine gynecology. I wanted to focus more on holistic women's health, right from childhood to old age, taking care of all kinds of women's health needs, right from nutrition and fitness as a child, your anemias and menstrual irregularities, contraception as a teen and a young adult, and focusing more on healthy eating, fitness, and how to be in control of your life. And most of my talks that I give on preventive oncology, preventive health, I tell women to take charge of their lives, that they can plan anything and everything they would like to do. So I'm of the belief that, I just came across this saying that when you want something, all of the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. And my entry into Pennalam was something like that. After having my second child, I didn't want to get into a regular work of duties and not being around for the children. I wanted a job where I have enough satisfaction, the ikigai kind of a concept, but at the same time be there for the family. And incidentally, this Pennalam that was started by a cancer survivor about 12 years back, the founder reached out to me, and right now I have a setup doing exactly what I wanted to do as an undergraduate medical student. I focus on women's health, empowering women, helping them take charge of their lives, right from healthy eating and diet and fitness and yoga, and talking about contraception and again, menstrual health, pregnancy, all that is there in the package, including cancer screening and providing affordable cancer care. That's what we do as Pennalam. Now, coming to my fitness journey, my running and exercising and racing and sports stopped with 10th standard and school. After that, almost till I was 30, yes, maybe after my first delivery, when I had a little bit of a weight gain, I did some walking and tried joining a gym, but it never worked out. Again, in 2009, I started running in UK. It was just a weekend 5Ks with the Park Run group over there. And after coming, I came back to India in 2011. After that, I thought running doesn't happen in India. And obviously the situation, one, I wasn't aware. Two, I didn't think, I was very conscious about running out here in India. And I had my daughter, the second one, in 2014. And post-pregnancy weight gain is what motivated me to try taking charge and bringing my weight under control. So that is when, again, I came across the same thing, that the universe conspired in bringing me to this wonderful fitness group, where I met a really excellent set of girls, and have become very good friends. And friendship does happen later part of your life. Long-lasting friendship does happen. This group is one proof for that. So we started inspiring each other, and I did my first half marathon in 2017, and it was a horrifying experience. The last 10 kilometers, I literally cried and walked till the finish line, but I made sure I finished it. But after that, it became really easy, and Right now, you tell me to run a half marathon, I can do it anytime, any day, without even any preparation. And again, this group was the one that even brought the knowledge that triathlons can be done in India, triathlons can be done in Chennai, and actually there are groups in Chennai that are that's doing triathlons quite frequently. And that is how, again, we a group of girls joined together and decided why not. And usually it was the men in the group who were doing triathlons, and women had never done it till that time. But me with a group of girls, we did about 2 or 3 triathlons with the group. Um so the motivation for all my fitness activities comes from my family at the foremost. I should say I have a demanding yet very supportive family. So my kids, they need me as soon as they get up from work, as soon as they get up from bed. My husband needs me. But then if I have to go do an event, they are there helping me all along the way. My husband has driven me all the way to Kodaikanal to stand with me through a race. I did one half marathon in Europe, and he again drew me about a huge distance, stood with me, called me through the last 5-10 kilometers, pushing me, motivating me to finish the race. And and yes, this group of girls, we are all geographically in different places. 2 girls are in Coimbatore, and the 2 girls are in very far off places in Chennai itself. But we are all in a group, and we motivate each other, uh, and we share. Okay, what workouts are we going to do now? How are we going to go through this? And that's how it's always been. And being fit is not easy, but it's not difficult, but it's not impossible. That is what I would like to tell everybody, because I come from a family that needs all traditional cooking and the proper South Indian food in the morning. So I do my meal preps the previous night itself, like for a puli karakkadha irukattum, vegetables chop panni vechikkiradhu, ella ready pannittu. My day starts at 4 a.m. Sorry. So I get up at 4 a.m. and now before I do any of my activities, I make sure for sambar panna poduna, the vegetables and the puli எல்லாம் வந்து will be boiled and ready, the dal will be ready, the rice will all be ready. எல்லாத்தையும் பாதி பாதி வச்சுட்டு I go for my workout, come back, and then the final prep will be just mixing everything up, and so that's how it goes. And I am back in time to wake my kids up for school. I make sure that none of my fitness interferes with uh, the activities of the kids, their schools, and anything. And my work has also been quite conducive to that. I make sure I'm back home by 2 or 3 p.m. and in the evenings I am at home. I don't want this extensive practice. I want to be there at home with my family. And like telling Vidya the other day, this group of girls, we've been planning on and hoping on doing something like this, wherein we can motivate other people to make them understand that yes, fitness is not, it may not be easy, but it's not impossible. It's not very difficult. All and dedication and daughter's birth, and I try and I did bring it down to below 70, and it's still an ongoing journey. Internet again. So yes, so I make sure these are the ways I just handle things in. I have all the possible health issues you can think of. I come a family of very obese people. Everybody, my father, grandfather, all my attais, perimas, you name them, cousins, everybody are what you would call obese, and I have a very strong obese gene. I would joke that even if I sniff food or look at food, I can put on weight. So, and I'm hypothyroid. And yes, and I am approaching menopause with all the hormonal issues and the weight gain issues. But along with none of these is a hindrance to losing weight or staying fit or staying active. And again, the motto is not to be skinny or size zero. The motto is to keep your heart pumping and continuing your activity so that you are healthy. I would love to continue doing this even into my 70s and 80s and 90s and 100s. Not just for now, it's just not a midlife passion, and it's just not a craze that everybody's doing it. I would like to do it. Now, again, this journey has not been without its challenges. Last January, along with all the COVID-related pandemic trauma, I had a shoulder injury. I was climbing. Along with the COVID-related issues, I also had a shoulder injury. I slipped down the stairs, had a rotator cuff tear, and almost for 6 months, I couldn't do any activities. And all the weight issues and everything related to it came into play. But again, from last June, I have started doing this. And I should mention my mother-in-law has been a great inspiration during that period, because she started doing 5-kilometer walks inside the house, inside her small room, a 10 by 10 room. While watching a TV show or a movie, she would walk up and down the room and finish 5Ks and do the 10,000 and 15,000 and 18,000 steps. So I used to run on a treadmill or outdoors. And then my treadmill broke down. I think I'm the only person who ran on a treadmill and broke it down, because people made fun of me when I bought a treadmill, saying that people usually dry clothes on it, or it's used as a stand for something, and people never put it to use, go and buy a treadmill. But I trained for most of my races on the treadmill. And my treadmill broke down. I thought, okay, lockdown and I'm not able to run outside, no treadmill. So that's it, I cannot run. But then I used to see my mother-in-law running and walking up and down inside the house, and that made me think that why can't I do it indoors? And yes, so if I can't run outdoors, I try running indoors, in my hall or in my kitchen, up and down. So the COVID challenges have been there, but I have tried keeping up to my fitness activities. So my take-home messages would be, again, it is not easy, but all it needs is a little bit of dedication and a little bit of preparation, and it's not impossible. And as a gynecologist working for Preventive Oncology, I would advise everybody not to miss out on any of your screening tests, and live smart. And hopefully we get to start something like what Vidya is doing soon.
So I have a few questions for you, Sujata, and probably we will ask our friends to also keep the chat box going up, so that, if they had any questions related to gynecology and towards women's health, we will be able to cater to them too. So the first question which I have for you is, since you spoke about, cancer, and you spoke about women's health and things like that, I want you to throw some more light on when can a woman go for her first mammogram and probably her first examination of her, cervix and uterus. I'm talking about a married woman right now. We'll come to the, unmarried spinsters later.
Okay. Cervical cancer usually happens in between 40 and 60 years of age. So we advise a cervical cancer screening. Any kind of a screening test is advised about 10 years or 15 years before you anticipate a cancer to come up. So any sexually active woman, I wouldn't say married, unmarried, any sexually active woman from 25 years on is advised to have a pap smear as a cervical cancer screening once every 3 years. And this goes on till she reaches 50, and after 50, at least once every 5 years. Right now, there's another additional test called HPV test. HPV screening test, human papilloma virus test from the same cervical smear. If the HPV screening is negative, then the smears can be done once every 5 years too. So from 25 years on, if you're sexually active, you start your cervical cancer screening. Breast cancer usually occurs only in your 50s and 60s. So mammogram is advised from 40 years on. So these guidelines differ between the UK recommendations and the US recommendations, but from 40 years on, an annual mammogram is recommended. And if any abnormality is found out on the mammogram, then we do an ultrasound and biopsies and so on. Breast self-examination, we teach women right from their early to mid-20s. So self-examination simply with the palm of your hand, once in 3 months,
after your periods, the week after your periods, not before your periods, after your periods. And you don't go looking for lumps. You just try to understand how your normal breasts feel. And if you find any difference between your previous exam and this month's exam, then you come and meet up with the doctor, like any difference, changes in size, any puckering of the skin, or any unusual lump or something that you feel, or without any, you don't need to check for nipple discharge. If there is any discharge, like a watery, bloody discharge, milky discharge, without you having to stimulate it, you come for a checkup. Otherwise, you do self-examinations right from your early 20s and mammograms from 40 years of age. These are the commonest cancers, the cervical cancer and the breast cancers. The uterus and ovarian cancers are relatively rare. The advantage with uterus cancers is the moment there is some abnormality in the uterus, it gives you a sign as an unusual bleeding. Either you have bleeding in between periods, what we call as intermenstrual bleeding, or after menopause, you're not supposed to have any bleeding, which is called postmenopausal bleeding, or even postcoital, that is after sex, you have some kind of a spotting bleeding, which is all unusual other than your regular periods. So any kind of an unusual bleeding, you go get a check to find out what it is for uterus cancers. Ovarian cancers are detected usually very late because there is no classic straightforward symptoms for ovarian cancer. So the one key finding we usually ask women to look out for is if they have had regular appetite and bowel movements and digestion all along, and suddenly they start feeling bloated and have indigestion and frequent acidity kind of issues, rather than simply focusing on a gut-related problem, they also need to get an ultrasound abdomen to make sure the ovaries are fine.
Thank you so much. Another question is for a young girl who is probably in her early teens, and when do you, really understand menarche coming up, and what would be your probably, instructions to the young mothers who would like to guide their daughters better?
Okay, so menarche is the actual bleeding that happens, the periods that happen. 2 or 3 years before that, the other changes related to puberty start off. That is, breast buds and breast start developing. There is growth of hair in the underarms. And then there's the sudden growth spurt. They suddenly grow tall. And all these prepares, and some girls also start developing hair in the underarms and the pubic area. So all these are signs that, yes, you can anticipate a period in the next 6 months to a year. So if all these changes are happening, one needs to explain to the daughter in a very scientific, straightforward way without attaching too much of fear or anything. These are just normal changes, yes. Like I was a baby, I became a big woman, and I had a baby. So the body is getting you ready for that. I mean, my 6-year-old asks me, how come only you have breasts and I don't have breasts? So I tried to explain to her, yes, because the baby needs to be fed, you develop breasts once you grow up. And her next question was, so you stopped breastfeeding, so why hasn't it shrunken back to its original size? So give them a very scientific answer and explain to them, yes, this is what happens. These are the changes that are happening in your body. And you will start having some kind of a bleeding or discharge. If anything like that is happening, do let me know. Definitely once a girl is 10 or 11, I'm sure she's old enough to understand everything, and it can even keep her prepared. And it is just a simple physiological process, and there's nothing, don't attach any kind of negative emotions to it, be it religious or don't make the child feel bad about it, and insist on hygiene. The child can have a bath once or twice a day, change the pads every 4 to 6 hours. And there might be pain because the uterus is going to cramp and push the blood out. So you may have pain. And if there is pain, you can take medications. The pain, the tablets taken for period pain is not going to cause any long-term harm, because like if you have a headache or if you have a stomach ache, you do take a pain medicine. Doesn't mean it's going to damage the reproductive chances for life. It's nothing like that. Painkillers can be taken for the period related pain. So these are the things a mother can tell the daughter.
Excellent. I have another question. Mostly right now, the word called organic is becoming a very buzzword, right? And when you look about pads as menstrual pads, there are also something called menstrual cups. I know there are mostly on this call, we are all women. But there are some men also, and I'm sure they have their loving wives or their daughters or daughter-in-laws or grandchildren whom they would like to be active source of information, so that, you know, this the man, women, that gender is actually, I feel, is just God made, right? So I feel this information should go reach people in the right kind of sense. So I would like you to throw more information on menstrual pad and definitely the menstrual cups also.
Just before going into it, you're right. Look, when we do awareness about breast cancer, cervical cancer screening, we do it for men and women, because there's nothing like just because it is female body parts, only women need to talk about it. Okay, organic. I don't use organic products, and I'm not a big fan of the word organic. But yes, eco-friendly pads can be used because they are more biodegradable. So again, it's a personal choice. And some people feel there's more rash with the synthetic kind of pads, and the biodegradable ones or the cotton ones cause less discomfort. So what kind of pad you use is definitely a personal choice. Menstrual cups, again, because of the concept of avoiding, making it more eco-friendly, the menstrual cups came into existence. So these are tiny cups, silicone cups with a suction-like hole and a small tail at the bottom. So you just squeeze the cup and insert it into your vagina, and it goes and sits on the mouth of the cervix, collects all the blood. And once in 4 to 6 hours, you make sure you take it out, just rinse it with water, and you can replace it back again. So it comes in 3 sizes for a woman who's not had a baby, after 1 or 2 children, and multiparous after in their 40s, more than 40s, and it comes in 3 different sizes. So you may have to, though it comes in these standard sizes, you may have to do a trial and error, because the cups, I think, cost between 200 and 300 rupees. So even if you buy one and the size is wrong, instead of fretting about it and using an uncomfortable cup size, I would suggest that buying 2 sizes and doing a trial and finding out which works better. Again, it is totally a comfort thing. Women might not be too comfortable inserting it into the cervix, and sometimes taking it out is a little difficult because it sits there around your cervix through suction. So while pulling it out, there might be some discomfort, but it is quite a safe device to use.
Okay. And you were speaking about breast examination, and in case you see some kind of a lump or you feel some abnormalities, how do you go about the entire issue? I mean, see, there is something called the white coat of fear. So even going to a doctor on a normal day, forget the pandemic, the normal day, there is some kind of an anxiety level which goes up in any individual. And imagine you have seen a spotting, or you have felt your breast and there is a lump or something which you are looking at, so, or which you feel it could be something. So how do you handle yourself, and how do you go about the entire situation?
So if you have a pimple, you immediately don't think it is skin cancer. Okay. But if the pimple doesn't heal, you definitely need to see a doctor for some kind of help. So similarly, the breast is a tissue made up of gland cells, fat cells, fibrous muscle tissue, and so on. Any of these can undergo swelling to produce some kind of irregularity that feels like a lump. So any breast lump is not a cancer. So out of 100, maybe out of 100 women who have lumps, maybe 10 or 12 out of 100 times, it turns out to be a cancer. So if you feel a lump, any day it is better to go get it checked by a doctor, because 90% of the time it is either a fluid collection that we call a cyst, or it is the muscular fibrous lump, which we call a fibroadenoma, or it's just the normal breast tissue, because some women tend to have more of fatty tissue, some women tend to have more of fibrous tissue. So women who have more of fibroglandular tissue, the breasts overall feel lumpy, and wherever you put your hand in, it might feel like as if there is some knotty feel in the breasts. And these women also tend to have more of the premenstrual bloating and pain and discomfort in the breasts. So for all you know, it might simply be the normal breast texture, or it could be a cyst, or it could be the fibroadenoma. Or even before going to cancer, there are other borderline lesions or the pre-cancer lesions. So at any point in time, it makes sense to go get it checked. And below 25, we usually don't recommend biopsies, but after 25, it is advisable depending on the findings on the ultrasound. If it looks suspicious, we do a biopsy to find out what kind of a tissue it is. And like I said, 90% of the time it is non-cancerous. But it is better to get it investigated first and sorted out, rather than delaying and thinking that எனக்கு cancer வராது அதுவா இருக்காது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி புஷ் பண்ணாம. Because when we see cases who come in late, எனக்கு 1 வருஷமா இருக்கு, 2 வருஷமா இருக்கு, 8 வருஷமா இருக்கு, பயந்துட்டு நான் வரல அப்படின்னா சொல்லும் போது it's really painful. Because if we had seen this 6 months before, because unfortunately in India we don't have this regular screening programs. Like if UK la vandu 25 years ana, the hospitals start calling you for your pap smears, and varlena they keep calling you repeatedly, hey innu varlena. Adhe mari the moment you turn 40, they call you for your mammograms, and they keep badgering you, asking you to come. We don't have that kind of routine screening for early pickup. So it makes sense being smart and going and getting it checked and assuring that it is nothing, rather than delaying treatment, making it reaching a stage where it can't be cured. Or even, I mean, even if it can be cured, having a major surgery, losing your breasts and going through chemotherapy, even if it is going to be life-saving, it is a painful process.
Okay. And see, you had spoken during your talk, you said you were hypothyroid, patient. And so generally when we speak about hypothyroidism, today, being a doctor myself, I have seen at least about, 60 to 70% of all women or girls are hypothyroid, but they don't come to know about it. And that is one. And, sometimes they don't take their medications properly. So your take up on that.
So the thyroid gland is a small gland in the front of your neck, and it is involved with so many processes in your body, right from regularizing your menstruation to your metabolism, your brain activity, and so much more. So, and the thing is, we do tend to do thyroid tests left, right, and center. But if you are hypothyroid, there are some classic symptoms definitely there, and only if you have those symptoms, it makes sense testing your thyroid. Like one is unusual weight gain, being very ravenously hungry, constipation. The body weight gain is more like a fluid retention kind of a weight gain. Hair loss might be there, and then losing of eyebrows in the lateral 1/3, and menstrual irregularities definitely. So these are all signs that you may be hypothyroid, and then getting a thyroid test makes sense. And thyroid is a hormone that is necessary for so many body functions. So when the thyroid hormone is not functioning enough, the signals from the brain increase, and thereby your TSH level increases. So bringing the TSH down is the motto of giving you the thyroid medication. So all you need to do is, as soon as you get up and brush your teeth, take the tablet, and after about 15-20 minutes, you can have your regular coffee, tea, food, and so on. That's all that needs to be done. And it is on the rise, probably because of pollution and so many other reasons. There is more of thyroid right now compared to 20-30 years back. And so it is not all people need to be screened, but we need to keep that in mind.
And most of the young women, they complain about polycystic ovaries. And polycystic ovaries is another reason why women put on weight. And I find it like a vicious cycle, because see, you put on weight, and your knees are your weight bearing joints, and it becomes difficult for you to move around. And because of that, your gait becomes slow, which means if you run, you start walking now. And then because you're doing that, again, you start putting on weight. And this goes on and on. So how do you break this vicious cycle? And what is your take on polycystic ovaries and women in terms of weight gain and exercise?
Okay. Polycystic ovaries, there are thin polycystic ovarian cases too. So weight gain is one of the symptoms of polycystic ovaries. So polycystic ovarian syndrome means that normally the ovaries are supposed to produce one egg every month, which matures, ruptures, and if it doesn't become a baby, you get your periods. But what happens in polycystic ovaries is, due to abnormal hormone signals, multiple follicles start to grow in the ovaries, and none of them grow enough to reach maturity. So all these tiny ovary follicles start producing small amounts of estrogen, which causes period irregularities. And weight gain, again, because it comes under the same family of diabetes. So the same hormonal disturbance that is causing diabetes is what causes polycystic ovarian syndrome too. And this leads to deposition of fat and weight gain. Now, the fat also produces small amounts of estrogen derivative, and both these together work on the ovaries to prevent the follicle from maturing, one, and two, the lining of the endometrium keeps growing and you don't get your periods for 45 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And after a point in time, the lining of the uterus is not able to bear the increase in growth, and you have periods, and it goes on and on with heavy flow. Or sometimes you may need to give them medications to make them get their periods. So to break the cycle, you need to make sure the weight comes down. You need to cut down the fat. So again, being really dedicated in bringing your weight down is what matters. So once your body fat comes down, the amount of estrogen load comes down, thereby the ovaries start functioning. Once the ovaries start functioning, your periods become regular. And again, one of the girls in my group, she's been this really chubby child and a chubby teen, but she got into this running and cycling, and she's brought things under control, and her cycles and everything have come under control. And she is conscious. She knows that if she stops this, again, she's going to gain weight. And it's whatever happens when girls with polycystic ovarian syndrome do come to me, I tell them whatever they do, it needs to be a lifestyle change. Now, 1 மாசம் பண்ணேன், 2 மாசம் பண்ணேன், 2 வாரம் ஜிம்முக்கு போனேன், 5 மாசமா அப்படியே ஹெல்த்தியா சாப்பிட்டு இருக்கேன், நான் ஒண்ணுமே சாப்பிடுறது இல்ல. It has to be a lifestyle change. You being active every day, you eating healthy, having more of fruits and vegetables and less of junk food, and at least 60 minutes of activity every day needs to be a lifestyle thing. The way you wouldn't brush your teeth, you wouldn't say brushing your teeth is like, I've been brushing for the last 10 years. You know, brush panide irukuma. Yes, you need to brush all your life. It should be something similar to that. So once you break the weight cycle and the body fat comes down, you break the hormone cycle. The same logic holds good for diabetics too. And recent studies show even for hypertensives and people with high cholesterols, advising exercise and them doing regular exercise is supposed to bring down all these issues rather than medications alone.
Awesome. Another question is, generally, when you think about menopause, or women, say above 40, 45, where it actually starts to onset, and then when you look at women going into their 50s and 60s, osteoporosis or osteopenia, then porosis, and then fractures of hip or lower back pain, all that becomes an issue for a woman. So when you look at that, what is your take on exercise, osteoporosis, and menopausal women? Any correlation, and your expert advice?
Definitely. Look, your muscle mass, you gain your maximum muscle mass, your muscle calcium and everything by your 30s. Again, your bone strength and your bone mass also you peak between your 20s and 30s. So after that, it starts going down. So to prevent it from going down, not just diet, you need to be active. You need to keep them under motion and do more of strength training, resistance training, which keeps your muscles and bones healthy and strong. When you start doing it, rather than doing it in your 40s and 50s, starting it in your 20s and 30s, doing strength training. And right now, strength training is recommended even for younger kids. I mean, when I was young, I was told that. Yeah, so look, when I was young, I was told that சின்ன வயசுல வந்து ஜிம்முக்கு எல்லாம் போக கூடாது, போனா வந்து height வந்து growth stunt ஆயிடும், குள்ளமாயிடுவா and all that was there. But no, strength training is recommended right from childhood and in teens to make sure their bone and muscle mass is really good. And once you start this habit in youngsters and in teens, it becomes more of a routine thing. You get up, you brush your teeth, you exercise, you go to school, you study, you work, rather than only when I have issues. Gundanadhukku appuram da gym ku pona, gundanadhukku appuram da exercise pannanom, vayasanadhukku appuram da walking ponom appdin illama it should become a way of life. So it is strength training and everything is recommended from your childhood and in your teens, so that even irrespective of whether you reach 30 or 40 or 50 or 60, your basic bone and muscle mass and your muscle strength is good. Thereby, it's not that it is inevitable or not going to happen, but what usually happens at 40 or 50 might happen at 70 or 80. But that can also be delayed as long as you're keeping it active. You cannot, I mean, you can't be immortal and you can't keep prolonging your life, but at least you can be healthy till your last days. That is the idea, rather than limping and, like you say, knee pain. So many women, obese women with osteoarthritis, they do tell me, நடந்தா கால் வலிக்கிறது அதனால நடக்கல. நீங்க நடந்தா கால் வலிக்கிறது நடக்கலனா இன்னும் weight ஜாஸ்தியா போகும், மறுபடியும் அடுத்த 2 ஸ்டெப் எடுத்து வைக்கவும் கஷ்டமா தான் இருக்கும். So start with 5 minutes. இன்னைக்கு 5 நிமிஷம் மட்டும் நடங்க. ஒரு 2 நாள் கழிச்சு அந்த 5 வந்து 10 நிமிஷமா பண்ணுங்க. அதுக்கப்புறம் 15 நிமிஷம் நடங்க. Then do it in the morning and evening. Do it with short breaks, but keep moving, and gradually you are going to lose the weight. And obviously the weight bearing joints, when the load is reduced, it is going to get better. Again, an example is my mother-in-law. In spite of having these knee issues and the doctor saying, yes, you might need surgery. This was about 3 years back, I guess. Like I said, she started walking, and right now she's comfortably doing all her duties without any worsening of the osteoarthritis of the knee.
Very wonderfully said. There is good pain and bad pain. Good pain is when you do an exercise and you have pain. Bad pain is you do nothing, but still there is pain in your body. So, good pain is welcome, because when you overcome the good pain, the bad pain actually goes away. Many a times, like you said, I have seen women who are having some kind of a knee joint problem where they are thinking or contemplating on joint surgery or replacement. Say they did not need one just because they started doing exercise. And once they increase their frequency, increase their endurance level, and increase their strength training, the pain eventually actually subsides, and the surgery can become nullified. And overall, if you look at it, it definitely gives a better quality of life, right? So wonderful. And of course, few more questions before we end the session today. Sujata, just tell me, in your opinion, how about a diet? Whenever we think about exercise, there are a lot of diets which are in the market, and people speak a lot about diet. Personally, I'm a person who says have a holistic way of life. I mean, you practice mindful eating and have a diet which is from all the the proteins, the carbohydrates, fats, and everything, but have it in a quantified format, so that you're able to relish it for a longer period of time, rather than saying give up on one exact session of the food pyramid and then go ahead with the others. There are a lot of fancy diets right now, and what is your take on that?
What you're saying, what you're following is right, and that is what I have come to realize the last 1 to 2 years.
Okay. So what would you recommend? I mean, let us know a little more about your diet, because you said you lost or shed a lot of weight in the last 1 or 2 years. So
yeah. Yeah. No, it's certainly Nadal hang out, so I just thought I'll just give it a pause.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have experimented with all the possible diets that you can think of, because like I told you, I come from a family of overweight, obese, and with hypothyroidism and all. I have gone through periods where I've been on completely carb free and completely fat free and everything. But right now, I have come to an understanding that I don't have to deprive. I'm becoming old and I'm thinking, okay, why after doing all this? But the one truth that I learned is, in spite of all my intensive marathon and triathlon trainings, exercise alone is not enough for weight loss. Why control panno? Why cutting another weight is what I say. So, but you don't have to deprive yourself. You need to understand portion control and reduce processed food from your diet and have a lot of fruits, vegetables, include everything there is to eat, and that should be good enough. And if you just stick to your good traditional home cooked locally sourced foods and stay active every day, it may take a longer while, but your weight will come under control. Because any person who has put on weight, the weight gain didn't happen within a month or weeks and or a few months. It would have happened over a period of many years. So weight loss and expect pandrapa, you can't magically expect the weight to disappear in a week or two. One maasam gym ku pone, 2 maasam odine, 2 maasam diet panne is not going to help. You need to give it the same years for it to come under control and settle. So consistency is what is more important rather than any of these fancy diets and magic spot reductions and treatments.
Absolutely. I am of the same thought process. I feel it might take, time. I always say the formula is not difficult. It is very, easy, but it is in terms of simplicity. It is so simple, and that is why I think people take it very lightly to follow. Because we are saying eat well, sleep well, and exercise properly, and bring in a lifestyle change. It sounds so simple and it sounds so cliche, but then that simplicity is what makes it difficult to follow. So here we have a few questions for you. Kripakar sir is asking you, Dr. Sujata, how difficult it is for you to be a doctor, a mother, a triathlete, and a marathoner. Is 24 hours enough for you?
Like I said, it's I'm lucky. I'm blessed to have a very supportive family. So I get up and I do my stuff, and I mean, I don't try to be a full-time doctor, and I try to balance. Some days, yes, sometimes I'm not able to train as much as I want to, because my little one is just 6 years old and she needs me for many of her needs. But like I said, whatever I'm doing, it is not just for this particular event or this year or the next 6 months. I would like to be as active for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So since this is going to be an ongoing thing, I'm in no rush to finish an event or reach a target or anything. My aim is to just stay active so that my muscles and joints and bones and my endurance is the same, either irrespective of whether I do my Ironman now or after 10 years or 20 years. So I'm just waiting for my kids to grow up.
Awesome. So we have Rhoda saying really good tips and coverage for all of us to follow. Moderation in all areas is the key, I think. Thank you so much. Judeline says, Dr. Sujata, how did you get into the habit of waking up at 4 a.m. every day? And what were the challenges you faced and how did you overcome
them? It just broke in between. Can you just repeat that?
Sujata, this is a question from Judeline. And she says, Dr. Sujata, how did you get into the habit of waking up at 4 a.m. every day? What were the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
Look, getting up at 4 a.m., there are no challenges. It's just your mindset. Okay, it is going to be difficult for a few days. So, but after that, your body gets used to it. So right now, though my alarm goes off at 4, my brain is awake by 3:50. So 3:50, my eyes are open, and I look at the watch. It's about 3:45, 3:50, and I wait for the alarm to go off, and then I get up. So your body just gets used to it over a period of a few weeks or few months. The biological clock automatically wakes you up, and this happens however late you sleep, irrespective of how late I sleep. I'm awake at 4 a.m. It just takes a little practice and time. And since I'm not disturbing anybody else, it's not much of a challenge. So I just get up and I have my time early in the morning for whatever I do. So it's actually nice.
I agree. Me time is so precious, and many of the super achievers or any successful people, if you ask, they are early risers, because that 1 or 2 hours which they get as an additional time, what statistics has told is people who wake up 1 or 2 hours every day prior to the entire household, they have actually one entire month in hand. As against to people who are late risers. So absolutely well said. Kannan sir says, I love this good pain concept and I'm ready to go through it anytime rather than keeping idle. I absolutely agree with that. Many a times in life, I have felt that, pushing yourself through a lot of things might be a little discomfortable at that point of time. But nevertheless, when you look at life, when you turn back and look, you feel very happy about it. Ponni Selvi is asking you, Dr. Sujata, can you share your secret recipe of cooking and working out simultaneously?
Okay. Now, Ponni Selvi is part of my fitness group, so she knows all my thing. Okay. This running and cycling and so on happened from 2016, 2017. But even before that, like I said, I've had this constant relationship with healthy eating and exercising and so on. So before all this happened, I would as things are cooking in on the pot, I would do a spot jog, or I would do my squats, or running up and down the stairs. It would always happen. So when people say that they don't have time to exercise, I say you don't need a separate time to exercise, because after my son was born, this was in 2005. At that time, I didn't even know that this concept of going out and running and everything would exist. So I bought a couple of ankle weights, and I would walk till it's cooking. I would walk up and down with ankle weights, do my squats and leg lifts and all with ankle weights. And my original weight training started with 5 packets of rice in one cover and sealed it. And that was my first original weight that I started using at home. So when you don't need a time, a gym exercise trainer shoes time nothing. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can exercise has been my motto all my life.
Absolutely. And I also feel like, there is something called structured exercise. So whenever you are doing some work, you can always plan, like you had just mentioned about your mother-in-law, who, as she watches the TV or her favorite serial or maybe a movie also, instead of just sitting and relaxing and watching it for 3 hours non-stop, you can probably sit for 10-15 minutes and then walk around your bed. Like you said, she walked around her room and completed around 10 to 18,000 steps through that day. So I guess this is what is structured exercise all about. I mean, sitting is the new heart attack is what we all say. So for more than half an hour or 40 minutes of sitting, it is always better to get up and, start walking for at least 10-15 minutes. So intersperse your housework in between your work time, and then you can make it happen. Thank you so much, Sujata. I mean, it was an absolute marvelous session. For the first time, we have had this kind of an interviewing session. I've never done that before. But this was so amazing because it was on the spot. I never thought you would finish it in 20-25 minutes. And I had to pull it through, and great. I mean, you were very sportive in answering all the questions. And I guess a lot of people would have had these kind of questions in mind, but they might have not wanted to bring it up. And sometimes, there is a kind of shyness in whom to ask and how to ask and things like that. So thank you for being such a sport in answering all those questions for us. And it was So very important. I have a lot more people congratulating you, and you have explained so well many facts relating to women. All in all, thank you. So Rukmani Ma says that, and Akshata says, good one, Dr. Sujata, very inspiring. So thank you so much, Sujata. I mean, really, as I told you, this was not a planned question and answer kind of an interview kind of a session. But nevertheless, it was just that we rose to the occasion and then it just happened that way. Such a lovely morning, and we just hope and pray that many more women are benefited by this particular talk. And one more thing to add is this is going to be a recording, and so you can actually like, share, subscribe to our channel called Team Red Rockstars, and you would see this recording soon, and you will be able to reach out to more people, and hopefully it is very helpful for all those people who are not able to attend today, but still make use of this precious time which we had together. So thank you so much, Sujata. It was a pleasure having you on board. And thanks to your entire family. Tell them a big hi. And it really meant a lot to all of us. And
thank you so
I would like all the teammates to unmute and obviously wish Sujata. And if there is anything for you all to speak about. Okay, so
thank you, Dr. Sujata. It is an excellent session. Though I joined late, still there were some questions which has helped to know the recent recent treatment and all that, and how to do different age groups, ladies, what they should do to find out the cancer and all that. In fact, my wife has undergone this cancer removal for uterus. So we had a correct time treatment, so she's cured. So what I'm trying to say is the questions the questions were very exhaustive, as well as the answers given by the doctor was very exhaustive, detailing in every minute details about these things. So definitely it will help. I hope our audience would have by this time would have understood the importance of all these things. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ravi sir. Honestly, it means a lot when men come forward to understand women better. And I always believe in having a very holistic way of life. And this is very important, especially because I feel we live in coordination. There is nothing called gender bias. And I've always felt that we need to learn to respect our differences of gender and be coexistence in life. So that makes a lot of difference. Thank you so much, sir. We have Parvati saying very good session, well explained about diet and regular exercise, so many problems. Kripakar sir says, as usual, Kalaki tale. Judeline says, amazing session, so informative and interesting. God bless you. Dr. Sujata, as you continue serving through your expertise. I am Dr. Sujata's mother-in-law, and she is an inspiration for me to start my journey of exercising. Oh, thank you so much, Amma. Truly, truly very happy. I know you love gardening, but I never knew you have named your, format also garden. So lovely. Hearing you, at least if I'm unable to see you right now. And it's a pleasure to have known you, and wishing you all the best. We'll all pray that, your knee pain just goes away, right? Thanks for the session is what everybody is saying. So thank you so much for joining in, friends. And truly, we are very excited in sharing a lot of information with each one of you every Saturday. And, nothing is possible without all of you. So do log in, like, subscribe, and share whatever you hear and listen to, so that, many more people are benefited by such sessions. So thank you so much, Sujata, and thank you, delegates, for joining in. Truly means a lot to all of us. And any doubts you can ask at this point of time. Otherwise, I would like to also thank Kripakar sir for giving us this opportunity to interact. Through his reference is what I came to know about Dr. Sujata. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks to Kripakar sir.
Thank you. Thank you.